Hi everybody, it's me Maria with Nail Nation on Facebook and Nail Nation 3000 here on YouTube. By request, I'm going to do a series of videos that depicts this winter wonderland holiday themed nail design. And also because there's a lot of detail involved in these nails, I'm going to do them for you on a larger tip because, as you can see, this is much larger than any of my nails. This way, those of you who are viewing on mobile or just really need to be able to see the image really clearly in order to copy it, I wanted to make it a little easier for everybody. So I'm going to show you right now everything that we used in the intro. And I'll make it really quick, but that way you don't have to reference the other videos to find the information. And then very quickly before each nail, I'll tell you what we used. You're going to need a series of brushes or painting tools. If you have one brush that you're able to kind of do everything with, then by all means I would, use that brush. But I like to use a series of brushes. So these are just natural Kolinsky hair brushes that I use with the polish. I recommend for everyone OPI brush cleaner if you have access to it. If not, whatever your favorite artificial nail and enhancement brush cleaner. And I also recommend that you get a large bottle and only keep a little bit in the small bottle because it gets kind of gross and you want to empty that out. For the red, that I used in the sleigh, I used Zoya and the name is Isla. Kind of like I'm Not Really a Waitress by OPI. It's a little bit brighter, but anything in this family is really good for that. My background on all 5 nails is Berry M CN Blue. You're going to need something in a royal metallic blue like this, this is Trippy Hippie by Color Club. My black, I just used Blackout by Extreme Wear by Sally Hansen and White On. And this is one of my favorites here. This is the new Sugar Plum Fairy by Color Club. So anything that's kind of in this type of glitter. And then, of course, with the snow highlighting, I used Lorelei's Tiara, which this is the new Eye Candy. And just some really true gold striping. This is for the striping. A dotting tool or a toothpick. Something with a fine end is preferred. A palette for your sponging and detail work. And for this sponging, I used this type of sponge. If you can see the texture, it's not the sponges you use for makeup. This is kind of like a really cheap kitchen sponge. And I used 3 plates for a couple of snowflakes and for a base on the candy cane. I used Conad M5 for these little guys here. I used Conad M12 just for the base of the candy cane here, and I added the white. And then I used Conad M59 for the large snowflake. So we're all done with that for the intro of what we're using. And if you're going to use a brighter red for your detail on your candy cane and for your snowman, I recommend Expressionist Red by Finger Paints. And just a little dollop of any kind of bright orange and yellow for your trees. Or any colors you want to use for your tree is fine. So we're going to do. Okay, everybody, so now if you have followed the first 4 videos, you have done your sleigh, your snowman, your Christmas tree, and your candy cane with your big snowflake. So now what we're going to do is this little bow here on top of 2 bells with snow and flurries behind it. So this is one that I really felt like we needed to do on this larger nail because it's so small on my pinky. It would be very hard for me to show you that. So what we're going to do is we're going in and doing, of course, you guessed it, the snow. We have to do that first. So you're going to bring it up from this corner here and go downward a little bit. And you're going to make it go down kind of far. It's not going to be covering very much of that outside part of your nail because you're going to need room for those bows and bells. So you're going to do the same thing you did before. You're going to take a little white and you're going to take a little blue and we're going to sponge those in. And you know, once you get the hang of doing your snow, you're going to find that you're going to love this technique because it's super easy and you can do it with other colors and do other things with it. It doesn't necessarily have to be snow, but it's a great way to get into the sponging and not have to worry so much about, you know, the perfection part of it, because it doesn't have to be perfect to look really blended and nice. So we've got our snow on there, and as you can see, it really doesn't take very long at all. And then the next step, what I did on my pinky was I used this stamp here, which looks like 3 little snowflakes together. It's Conad M5. You may even have like some flower ones that sort of look like this. It's not really visible a whole lot on the nail. It may be more visible on some of you than others, depending on your nail. But it's a nice effect behind it because when you really look at it, it adds a detail. So I just used White On by Sally Hansen Extreme. Sally Hansen's Extreme. And you just want to put it on there and scrape it off and then press really hard and roll, because this stamp is kind of small and thin, so it doesn't always, you know, show up real well. And then towards the top of the nail by your cuticle, you're just going to pop it on there. And even if little parts of it don't show, that is perfectly okay. You're not going to have a whole lot of that showing anyway. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build the bell. We're going to make these 2 bells. Now, it's going to seem a little silly at first, but it'll make sense after. So we're going to do this at an angle. As you can see here, you know, the bells are kind of tilting like they're ringing. So what you're going to do is you're going to create your first bell with a line like this and this. So it's going to kind of look like the ghosts from Pac-Man, except for a straight line instead of the zigzags underneath them. But you're going to do that at a slight angle. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do this, and I create that bell shape. And, you know, if it's a little imperfect, it's okay. You can always go back, like I said, and kind of fix it in the details with your black striper brush, so it's not really a big deal. You can also do it with triangles and then round them off, but that's a little more complicated. And your first bell is going to look a little more straight than your second bell is going to look. Your second bell, I want to show you this. It's kind of peeking out from the back, so it's not really a whole bell shape, so it's really not a big deal if some of it is not real perfect. So what I like to do is create this way and then sort of leave that line between the 2 bells open, so when I draw my lines I can still see what I'm doing. And then you're just going to put a small little dot below it, like the ball that hangs from the bell, and then that way it'll look like the bells are swinging in 2 different directions. Now here's where I want you to get out a black striper. Don't try to do this with a regular brush. Use a black striping brush or black polish with a striper brush. It'll be a lot easier. And what you're going to do is you're going to outline your small bell first, so that you don't mess up your big bell. And you're just going to go around it and then draw a line. And you're going to draw a small loop line below it, just like this. And you're really just kind of following the lines. Just don't cover up the little ball that you've made. And then you're going to follow your big bell the same way. And for some of you, you might even use poly paint for this the first couple times you try it, so that you can erase it with water if it's messed up. Use polish for your backgrounds and your snow, and then just use the poly paint. And this, you draw the line a little bit above your gold. And then you just cover the small line around your gold. It's going to look just like that. Super, super simple. It's not as hard as it looks. And you're just going to take another small amount of black and with a small tip, pull a little line down your bell. And then you can do another one right here if you have enough room on your nail. Don't do the second one if you don't. And then all we have to do now is flakes and the bow. And for those of you who did this with us on the other nail, you'll know from the candy cane how to do that bow. If you have a stamper that's a bow that you'd rather use, that's perfectly good too. I'm just going to take a little bit of that Impressionist's red, and I'm going to just kind of do the same thing I did for the candy cane without the big ribbons, because we don't want to cover our bows up. And you have to let that bow dry a little bit before you put the detail on it. So what we're going to do is move on to our flurries while that's drying. So you're going to take your dotting tool, and again the same step with the 3 dots in different sizes all over your nail in your free space. Just be careful not to get it on your bows or on your bells. And we can go ahead and add our glitters to our snow and sponge them in. And again, just like the other one, I liked that extra to be around this bottom corner. So I put it on real heavy there and drag it over. And it's going to look like this. And then what I did for my bow is I just took a teeny tiny amount of our gold, and I added those same lines that we added in the other video for the candy cane on the bow. And that's just a small swoop here, small swoop there, and I gave it a little line on the edge there just to give it some definition, and then a small dot in the middle to kind of go around where that knot is, and then a tiny little line in there just to give it bow definition. And it's going to look just like this. See, only much smaller on your nail. And then we're just going to coat this with 2 coats of top coat as well, like we did before for each nail. I'm going to show you on this one. When you're doing this, if you're using a thick top coat, what you want to do is put a larger amount of it at the cuticle area and then gently drag it down in a thicker coat. Let that dry completely and then do it again. For those of you using thin top coats, be very aware that a thin top coat will drag and pull your polish and your design much more than the thicker ones will. So give that polish a lot more drying time, an extra 10 minutes before you top coat. So now what we have here is our finished collection. As you can see here, they match my nails. We have the sleigh, we have the snowman, we have our Christmas tree, we have our candy cane, and we have our bells. I'll do still shots in each of these videos for you to see these in, and hopefully this was fun, easy, and a little faster than you anticipated it to be.